So this is 100% a bit of a different video than what we normally do here, but I in my spare time enjoy taking electronics apart. I don't know why, and I figured I'd do a quick video on this one because we've got this Xbox headset and the thumbsticks just look kind of bad. I went on eBay and bought these replacements, and they're pretty good. They're nice, new, and a different color, which I think will look really good once it's on this controller, which obviously has been modded in many different ways throughout time, different case, all of that stuff, but overall is still a Xbox controller. So let's go ahead and open it up. The first thing you want to do is pop off the back and take off any batteries that are in here. You don't want those. Then there'll be a screw. Now this screw is behind a piece of basically plastic. Normally you'll have to break that off and that will void the controller's warranty. On something like this for the Xbox One, it's really not a big deal. Now for this, we are going to be using an iFixit screwdriver. They're not a sponsor or anything like that. It's just a really good screwdriver, and it is a T8 security bit that we'll be using. From there, you can just put this up in there and untighten it right like so. Nothing too complicated about it, and it should come right on out. There we go, comes out, and boom, we can put that to the side. Now, in these controllers, it's a little weird because it doesn't look like there's any other screws on this controller. However, there are. You just have to pop the sides off. It's kind of a bit aggressive what you have to do to pop these sides off, and you can use tools and things like that to do it, but you can also use your fingers. I am going to opt to actually use a tool, and that's going to be, of course, from the iFixit toolkit, one of these kind of like square things. You can get up in here and push this apart. Now, don't think there's really any mode or method to it, except that there are some pins in here that you're trying to get up, and the pins are located in this area. We'll show you once this is up here. So there we go. As you can see, this is now pried out. We can leave this at the bottom and use our other hand to kind of pry the rest of this up. It could feel like you're breaking something, but I promise you're not going to break anything as long as you're pulling straight up and out with this. And there we go. Just kind of flew off as we turned it. What I was talking about is you've got these kind of right here on the bottom going in. So these clips on the bottom here are what's going in, as well as some that are kind of clipping over to the side. But if you can get this side up, you're good. Now we need to repeat that on the other side. Take this, push it up in the side, kind of pry that first clip up, run this down, and now we can just kind of get this really up under there and pop it off. It flies away. Now, as you can see, we've got no broken pins. Everything looks great there. No issues. Now at this point, there are 4 total screws that we need to remove. One here, the very bottom, one here, and one here. Let's go ahead and do that. These are also T8 security screws, so we can easily take those out. Everything uses the same bit for what we're going to be doing here today, so no worries about that. So there we go, all the screws are loosened. This one's having some trouble coming out, but we'll just leave that in because the controller's already falling apart. You can see it's already just coming out. So we can pull this up right like so and off. There we go. So there's the front of the controller. Now, luckily to replace the thumbsticks, this is as far as we need to go, right? So this is as far to replace thumbsticks. You can literally just pull them off. It's that simple. And pop your new thumbstick on. You might have to do some turning to get it to line up because as you can see, it's not exactly, you know, a circle there. It's like more of an oval. So you got to get those on there perfectly. And the old one can come off on this side. New one goes on, lining it up right like so. And that feels good. Now at this point, the thumbsticks are replaced. You're going to put it back together. By the way, don't worry if that happens. So the back of this could just fall off right like so. If it does, don't freak out. The only thing holding the back of this to the main controller is the screws we took off. So if that happens, just carefully place things in. If the rumble motors pop out as well, not a big deal. Let's go ahead and put it back in. It seems mine may have broken off, but that's okay. I'm okay with not having rumble on one controller. I typically don't play with it anyway, but you could also solder that back on if you wanted to. But at this point, we can go ahead and just put this back down into the controller, right like so, making sure we're lining everything up. The most important part is actually up here at the top. You wanna make sure everything lines up there, as well as at the bottom where the USB is. This is a little finicky depending on how things go, so just kind of turn it around and keep kind of trying stuff until you find what is going to work. Occasionally the bumpers will move off and you may have to pop those back on, but nevertheless not a big deal. So I'm gonna go ahead and mess with this while I'm not talking and get this popped right back in here. So there we go. After a bit of messing around, everything is working. Make sure your triggers are functioning as well as the bumpers before you put the case back together, because these can sometimes get stuck. Really, the issue is you're trying to get these bumpers and get this little plastic piece up under this part of the controller on both sides. So you want to make sure that on both sides that is good, and as you can see, it is for us. So at this point, we can put the front of it back on. So we want to take this, just pop it right back down, make sure our thumbsticks are straight. That's what we're replacing after all. Pop this right back down, and it just kind of sits there until we turn it over and start putting our screws back in. So obviously we want to do the reverse of putting it together. So just take your screws and put them in back where they came from. We've got the 5 screws here, one goes here, one goes here, one goes there, and one goes down there, as well as one in the middle. Let's go ahead and do it. Once I've got 2 screws in, I always like to make sure that those bumpers and everything are functioning still, as well as the button fitment on the front is good, which as we can see it is. Everything is working, so we're going to go ahead and put the rest of them in. There we go, final screw is turned in. We can pop our batteries back in and give this thing a test. See if it turns on. Now, obviously, we know it is going to turn on, but it's still part of the process. You always want to make sure everything is working before popping those back panels back on, and boom, there we go. We get the flashing light. The Xbox just turned on. We are good to go. Now, we can pop these side panels back on. Pretty simple, just line them up and push them down. Boom, boom, there we go. The other side panel that's I've lost. It's right down here just off the camera. Come down here and pop this one back on and pop our back case on as well to cover the battery. Boom. Controller all fixed. Might need to, there we go. A little bit more on the side there. Push that down and yeah, controller is ready to go. That's how you can change your thumbsticks on an Xbox controller. Like I said, a little different video for us. Let me know if you liked it. Maybe we can do a few more on some different electronics and things like that. Pretty simple replacements, considering you only have to undo some screws in the back and take the front case off.